Hello, my name is John and today on Monostorry we're going to be talking about the importance of backstory. So to start us off, what is backstory? And this is a part of a story where it tells us the past of a character. That also shows us what motivates that character. So an example of this is quite easy when we talk about Zoro or Sanji. In the case of Zoro, he is driven to become the best swordsman because of his rivalry with Kuina. So he wants to become the best swordsman as he is doing it for the sake of Kuina, as she has died in that backstory. And for Sanji, it's because of his relationship with Zeph and how he lost his leg having to save Sanji. So Sanji, with the opportunity that he has, wants to see the All Blue, which is what drives him because of that backstory. The backstory of a character also tells us how they got to that situation in which the main protagonist or the individual that is meeting that character for the first time, that they didn't just magically appear there. They had a logical reason or a rationalized reason to be there. So for us as the reader, we can understand like, hey, that is why that character is there. And that also opens up the door to, well, what happened in between certain points of that person's life before they got to that part of the story. The backstory of a character also tells us how we should feel about that character. Are they the villain? Are they the hero? Did they do something wrong? Did they do something right that made them the character they are today? And that tells us as an audience whether we should be rooting for this character or we should wanting that character to be deleted. What I also love about backstory is that it shows us characters from the past that we may not have seen in the current point of the story, or it even shows us characters that are now weak which were once strong. So in the backstory we would see them be these strong characters or these characters that had higher positions, and therefore we get a different sense of that character and what they once were through another character's backstory, which is what makes a backstory so beautiful. In my opinion, I think that backstories are the best, if not the best part of the story, as they allow for such creative ability and make the character such a unique part of the story, which is what makes them so good. They're so interesting that they are able to do such a simple thing with such complex characterization. I mean, there are some cases where the backstory allows us to understand future plot points or future motivation developments. Even manipulation of a motivation is caused through a backstory which has created that motivation, and we may have a past character that comes back and is interacting with the protagonist or another side character that had that backstory and creating a dialogue that makes that person question their motivation, which is insane through just a simple part of a story. Just love the way that it tells us about past characters that we may not have known about. A clear example is Easy Corazon. If you know from One Piece a character named Law, then this character named Corazon is a part of the Dressrosa arc in which Doflamingo and Law know each other from the past, and the reason being is through this character named Corazon, which we did not know about till we got to the Dressrosa arc and until we met the character and what they were and who they had relations to, which is what makes, again, just a backstory. I mean, you could even talk about Blackbeard's backstory. We don't even know enough about it, but just the understanding of what that is amazing. When they had the interaction with young Blackbeard, with young Shanks and young Buggy. Absolute cinema that was. That was beautiful. Just a simple concept of he hasn't slept in a few days blows this whole entire thing out of the water as a backstory conceptualization. Amazing. Another element of backstory that makes it so beautiful is how it tells us how things of the power system or scaling were actually created. Sometimes we realize through the backstory that it is the past elements that created what is in the present with the abilities of certain characters. A clear example would be Naruto. When you're talking about the Nine-Tailed Fox, how did he get the Jinchuriki in him? Well, we find that out through a backstory, and it blows everyone's mind. I mean, look, I'm going to talk out a bit out of context here, but look, let's be honest here. How the heck was Naruto mistreated when his father was the fourth Hokage? I do not know what was going on there. Maybe because of his Uzumaki heritage, whatever that's about. But look, let's be real here. That was an absolute diabolical starting story. If you were going to tell me that the whole entire Leaf Village did not like him because he was a Jinchuriki, when in reality he had the abilities of the fourth Hokage. He was the son of the fourth Hokage, and now he's the seventh Hokage. Like, come on. But hey, look, that's the power of backstory. I mean, We went from him being this not so great character who needed help in like the first episode to learn the Shadow Clone Jutsu to becoming the 7th Hokage, and we find this out that he's the son of the 4th Hokage. Like, that is insane power of a backstory. That there's a clear example of why they are just the best. They are the best part of the story, in my opinion, if done properly. Now, the issue with backstory, and why some people, if not lots of people as well, do not like them, is because the way they are written is sometimes so terrible and so bland that it makes the story so dull. Like, the simple trope that your parents died as a backstory with nothing else about it is so basic, man. Like, come on. We know, okay? Everyone's watched Batman or Spider-Man or some other superhero show. We all know that some goddamn parents got killed in that, and that's what motivates the character to become a superhero, okay? Or it could be your uncle, okay? Not Uncle Ben, okay? We get the point. But, like, come on. If you gotta write that as your backstory and that's all you have, the motivation for your character, they deleted my parents, I gotta avenge them, then it's just absolutely boring. Like, nobody wants to read the same plot device again, that, oh, your parents got deleted. Again, it's a sad point, I understand that, but it's very repetitive, okay? I want interesting stuff, I want unique stuff. Maybe you were sent to another dimension, maybe you were sent to another world, maybe you're not even a part of reality anymore. Like, those sorts of concepts would be pretty cool as an example of a backstory that got you to where you are today. Maybe you were reborn, okay? ReZero, clear example, okay? You could do that in it for a backstory too. You were reincarnated, reborn as a slime or something, you know? There's so many options you have. In giving the backstory of your parents, interesting, important, but very boring, okay? And that's a problem, repetitive backstories that have no sort of weight or any value to them are just pointless pieces of paper. Really, pieces of information that we didn't really need. And the second problem with the backstory, another problem, is that they create this issue of character assassination. So what the character assassination is where you've created a character and then you do an action with that character in your story that is not actually related or the opposite of what that character would do. So an example would be if your character is strong and you've built this character up to be this strong character, when faced with danger, the character would not run away. Okay, but if you've created a character that runs away from danger, then when in faced with that danger, the character should run away. So now you can have character development in a positive way, where the character fights the bully or the enemy instead of running away. But if your character is already a character that can stand up and fight, then character assassinating them by making them run away out of their own choice rather than the force of another entity or character, that is character assassination as an example, because you've basically created a character that you have this opportunity to use and you've basically done the exact opposite of what you created that character for, which is what backstory is very problematic at doing, because people write these unique backstories with lots of information and very deep details, but they lack the ability to maintain that. So at some point they get into a situation where they double cross or go against their own story and create the character assassination, where we as readers go, that character would never do that, why has it happened? Because we have the information of their backstory, but the writer, in some reason, just thinks this is a normal part of the story and doesn't think about the problems that he creates or she creates when writing this information that destroys their own character. Example of a character assassination, if you really want one, is Eren Yeager in Attack on Titan, and how he didn't just destroy everybody that wasn't a part of his paradise. Okay? That character literally just got destroyed because at the end, they just did it all again and again and again. So that's a clear example of character assassination, where he went against every single thing he believed in for no apparent reason other than Mikasa, and that's it. This is why some people should just never write backstory, because they just destroy their own characters in the process of doing so. Some of my personally favorite backstories are mostly from One Piece. I mean, you could literally write a whole entire dictionary or a novel just on the amount of backstories that are in One Piece. We're talking Robin's backstory, which is absolute cinema, and just the Ohara incident, absolutely mental there. Frankie's backstory, and we're talking Frankie and how he lost his mentor because of world government and their dislike for Gold D. Roger, which was absolutely crazy. I mean, you could talk about the new one with Kuma. Gosh, sad backstory there. And you can talk about most characters in One Piece with a backstory. They are definitive lists of backstory elements, which I personally love as an example for backstory. And you talk about Naruto, and I mean, clearly Neji Hinata backstory was absolutely brutal there, right? Shikamaru talking about his backstory with his relationship to Naruto. Again, these are things that you wouldn't really think about in perpetuity, but when you really think about them in the moment, you're like, wow, that was amazing. And that's some examples. I'm telling you, like, there's just so many. Even the concept of using your backstory as a part of your story going forward in Frieren, and how they actually look backwards before going forwards. So an example is like when they talk about the story of Frieren and the past group that she was with to defeat the Demon King, and now the present group, and how they go back and forth between the story and go through these motions, where the character of as Frieren goes to a place where they once were as younger or in the other party, and now Frieren's back to that place, but it's different. But the backstory shows us what it once was and how it was in those situations. Like characters that were once younger got older. The character, when she was fighting the demon that was frozen, dude unfreezes and he's like starting to learn the new magic, and it's like, damn, he's gonna disassemble Frieren or destroy her, and it's like, nah, Frieren's just sitting there like, bro, I've been out here longer than you have, punk, you're done. And that's what backstory tells us, because it shows us that Frieren, even in the past, was strong, and now at the present time is even stronger. So this is what backstories as examples tells us. It's like so good backstories out there. There is so many good backstories out there. You have to examine them, you have to watch them, you have to learn them, because there's just no way that you can look at a story and go, I like this story because it has no backstory. You would be absolutely crazy. I mean, with those examples I told you, that's nuts. That's nuts. Backstories are the best. Those examples, I'm telling you again, Robin O'Hara, that's all you need to know. That's all you need to know as a backstory. If you ever thinking backstories are good or bad, just think that one backstory sets you up for life. Yeah, I know. You could talk about Nami's backstory. You could talk about even, well, we don't know about Brooks, but hey, look, it's coming, you know. But Robin backstory, that character was absolutely brutalized as a child, and to then now still only just now found peace. That's crazy. And so that's my take on backstories and their importance. I think they are really, really necessary for your story. You got a bad backstory, you're going to have a bad story. Your character ain't going to be as powerful as they could be, because we don't know who they are in terms of their status or their abilities and how they acquired them. So backstory is used in such a unique way that without it, I think a part of the story would be always missing. I mean, you can always talk about real stories or real movies in a sense instead of anime, and you could talk about the very biggest one with Star Wars and how that whole entire story is absolutely being destroyed because people took out the most important parts of what was Star Wars. But if we look at its past and we look at the backstories they gave their characters, and then once we watch those backstories, so an example to give reference would be 4, 5 and 6 is a story with the backstories of 1, 2 and 3, and then we watch 1, 2 and 3 and we realize that backstory to 4, 5 and 6 and how it created the whole entire story. Like, that is insane writing, and that's what a backstory can do. And again, in my opinion, I think they are the best, if not the best thing about the story. I always love, whenever I see those panels in manga when it goes darker or black and you got those black outlines of those panels, you're like, backstory coming, I'm like, let's go, bro. I'm telling you, backstories are the best. Do not knock them back. They may sometimes be hard to understand or why they are there, because they are open to mystery, so you want to know everything now, but you can't. And they open you to world building, but you want to get more world building. But the problem is you're in a current part of the story that you can't change. And the only way you can learn about backstory is when the writer is ready to give you that backstory, and that is what makes it even better, is that there is nothing you can do but wait, and when it comes, it hits you like bam, and you're like, that was a backstory worth waiting for. But I want to hear what you think about backstories, so I want you to tell me in the comment section below, what is your favorite backstory and why? And if you haven't already liked, subscribed, press the bell button, please do so. And this has been John from Monostorry, and until next time, I will see you on another Monostorry.